Hi everyone, it's Tanya here, and what I'm going to be doing in these sessions is just go through the questions that have been posed and hopefully do my best to answer them in the best way possible. Now, as you know, my company is called BeClear, and I'm going to do my very best to be as clear as possible when answering these questions. But please feel free, you're more than welcome to email me if there's anything you'd like clarified later on. But in the meantime, let's just jump into it and look at some of the questions that have emerged. So it seems to be that front of mind for many people is just the fact that change has happened upon us so quickly. If we just look at 2020 and how many people came into it with their goals and their ambitions, and 2020 is going to be this great year, and all of a sudden we've just been hit with tremendous change. And that brings me to the question is just how is this change going to impact us, and what are we going to do, and what will the world look like going forward? Now, what I do know is none of us will be able to predict what the world is going to look like in a couple of weeks, months, or even years from now. But what we can do is understand what change does to us as human beings. And I'm going to take some time in our chat today to just unpack change and talk about how it impacts us as human beings. Now, I've often heard people say things like change is hard, or people always resist change. And the actual fact is that that's not true. In my experience, I've seen that very often, not only do we embrace change, we initiate change. So if you think of anything in life where you've made a big decision, maybe to change a career, to get married, to have a child, that all implies change, and yet people do it willingly. So what's the difference between change that's easy to go through or bearable and change that seems overwhelming and difficult? Well, there are a few key elements. The first thing is whether or not the change is from your own volition, in other words, you chose it, or it's something that's happening to you. The next factor is whether or not the change is something that you can anticipate and plan for, or whether it's happening rapidly and really feels like it's quite out of your control. Another one, of course, is the mindset that we bring to the change, and then our general temperament and personality, whether we are generally someone who feels that we can dance with change quite easily, or we like our routines and we like the way that life operates when it's predictable. Now, lastly, and certainly not least, is the fact that with change comes uncertainty. And as human beings, our brains don't generally love uncertainty. Our brains want what is predictable, because if I know what's going to happen, I can plan. And if I can plan and prepare, that helps me be safe. So we can see with what we're facing at the moment, not only is what's happening not something we chose, it's something that we're all being exposed to, but it's also happening at a rapid rate. And there are huge amounts of uncertainty because we don't know some very basic things, such as even what's going to happen tomorrow or next week. We don't know how it's going to impact our own health or those around us. And for many, the economic uncertainty that has arisen from this, career, safety, knowing where your income's going to come from, even basic uncertainty as to where should you go into when it comes to lockdown. You know, should you move in with someone? Should you rather be on your own? What are all the rules and the regulations? It's just so much for us to deal with. So when we look at change, we can either look at it and say, is this the type of change that requires transition? In other words, I'm going to move from A to B to C. Or is this the type of change that actually implies transformation? And that's the more difficult one for us to deal with, because transformation means that I fundamentally have to shift how I look at change. I have to question the values I hold. I have to question the mindset I bring to it. And I even have to question some of my basic preferences. So you might, for instance, love being around people and not just having engagement over a screen, but actually having people around you and touching and hugging and doing those types of things. due to the current circumstances, those might not be possible things for you to do. Which means we have to pause and really think about who we are, our preferences, our strengths, our weaknesses, our limitations, and who we need to be in order to deal with the challenge that we're facing. So in a volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous situation, the biggest challenge is not just how to deal with the challenge itself, but really, who do I need to be in order to deal with it? And in the coming sessions, we're going to be exploring different things, such as the mindset that will be most helpful, such as how to make sure that you've got the support around you that you need, whether that be virtual or in the form of books. We'll also be exploring some difficult topics like the feelings that might emerge when we are feeling uncertain, scared and isolated. And hopefully we'll also be looking at how to make sure that we transition through this period, again emerging stronger, but also equipping ourselves with some more tools and techniques. So a few tips to leave you with. The first thing is, whatever emerges for you during this period, try and name the feeling that you are experiencing. If we can name what is happening for us, it makes it much easier for us to actually process the emotion, but also to equip ourselves with the tools to carry us through that emotion. It's totally normal during these times for all different kinds of emotions and thoughts to surface. So don't criticize or judge yourself for what you're thinking and feeling. Secondly, try and establish your tribe. By this I mean, who are the people that you can connect with over the phone, who you can arrange a Skype or Zoom call with, or even access in the form of books, online videos, tutorials, TED Talks. Really establish a tribe that can carry you. We know that as human beings we need community, so go the extra mile to establish yours. Bring real awareness to what the thoughts are that you are holding. I recommend journaling during a time like this. When our thoughts are just going through our heads, we tend to ruminate. When we get them out onto paper, it's just like the world makes more sense to us. And then I would also recommend that you don't make any big life decisions while you are experiencing deeper emotions. If you are feeling that the time has come for you to make a drastic or a really important decision, sleep on it, journal on it, discuss it with someone who you view as being wise and who will give you good counsel. When we are emotional, we can use the emotions to support us in terms of what they're trying to tell us, but it's not the best time and place to make a decision when we are feeling very emotional. And then a quote that I'd like to leave you with, which has always been one of my favorite quotes, and I think just being in the field of resilience and change and adaptive capacity that I am, it's one of the most fundamental quotes. So Migginson in 1963 actually attributed this quote to Darwin, and I'd like to share it with you. It's not the most intellectual of the species that survives. It's not the strongest that survives. The one that survives is the one that's most able to adapt to change. So my wish for you is that you discover untapped potential within yourself, and that you remind yourself that you are where you are in life because you have probably come through challenges before. Draw from that strength, believe in yourself, and when you have moments where you don't feel that you have what you need, rely on someone else to remind you you've come this far and you can go ahead. I wish you all the best. Please remember, during this time, let's be clear, let's be kind, and let's remember to focus on what really matters most. Thank you.